Hello, my name is Nicholl, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I titled this message, Not Just Friends. Not Just Friends. Some of you all, when you have first partnered with someone, possibly as a friend, and it led into something else, initially, you may have thought, well, we're just friends, right? Because the intention is not to be anything more than that. At least for some of you all. But then it turned out to be something more. And so there are those who are in these sorts of situations, but they get sticky because there is no communication in terms of what is it that we have. Okay. So you have one person in this friendship, okay, and I say that lightly, in this friendship who will go and tell everyone, well, this is just my friend, okay. I remember going through something like this, over 20 some years ago, okay. And then you may be going around saying something a bit different. Well, I will tell you that if there is no meeting of the minds early on, then there's going to be a bit of confusion, because as long as that person considers you to be just a friend, he or she is going to always be open to dating other folks, okay, being intimate with others, and whatever else their flesh so desires. Now, let's just say, though, that this is a situation, though, that someone is in a marriage or is in a steady relationship with someone, or may even be engaged. And yet this person will tell his or her partner that, well, I have friends, I have female friends, I have male friends. I mean, there's nothing to be concerned about. And maybe initially when you are just getting to know someone, maybe you aren't too concerned. But then when there are certain names that tend to show up quite a bit, and you look and you happen to see a certain person's name shows up quite a bit in the cell phone, and then this individual is showing up at family functions, and every time there's some kind of achievement that a partner makes, well, that person is sitting in the audience. And then whenever you are not around, that person is going shopping with the partner. That person is also coming over to one's address, helping out, taking care of children. And this is just the friend. Someone who we shouldn't really be concerned about, right? Well, some people, 9 times out of 10, if it is starting to bother you a little bit and it's starting to become more and more uncomfortable, you have every right to feel that way, because 9 times out of 10, that person is more than just what your partner or your friend is saying. Okay. There's an article that appears on my lovedatingadvice.blogspot.com blog, and I created it back when I wasn't all that spiritual. I had my own share of issues, but there's some very good information on it when I look back and I see some of the contributions of others and so forth, because there are some people who they're not very spiritual at all. They just want some information, some wisdom that's going to get them up out of some things, sound the alarm on some other issues, and so forth. The article is titled Relationship Advice, Warning Signs of an Emotional Affair. And I'm going to direct this message more toward those in committed relationships, engaged, preparing for marriage, as well as those who are already married, and they pretty much think everything is peachy for the most part between themselves and their partner. But there are some areas that are a bit weak. So if you're tuning into this message, the focus is on the warning signs of an emotional affair. And if you're not ready to face anything, or you don't want to think about certain things, then maybe you should click off. But for those who suspect that there's that friend that's a little bit too chummy, a little bit too close, and it doesn't matter what your partner said, we're just friends. Okay. Sometimes the writing on the wall is saying, no, 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 no. They're more than just friends. Okay? So, a lot of times folks aren't just friends. Affairs, including emotional affairs, are typical unplanned events. Even when we are on that slippery slope, we convince ourselves everything is okay. But we're just friends are 4 of the most dangerous words for your relationship in marriage. So let's stop right there. When the person is saying it in such a way where it makes you feel like you are just terrible for even opening up your mouth and saying something, that is cause for alarm. If the person seems to be defensive and speaking highly of the person and putting that person on a throne and willing to yell, cuss, and whatever else, give you the silent treatment, all because you question this so-called friendship, there is some guilty behavior going on. Okay? It may be in one's mind where the fantasies are, or it may actually be out in reality. But there's something that's not quite right between that individual and his or her so-called friend or friends. Because sometimes people have more than one lover. Or they have former lovers and they call them friends, but they hope to get with their lover or lovers again. Okay? Reading on, but over and over in my office and on the phone, I hear it. We are just friends. There's nothing going on. The majority of extramarital affairs begin, listen up, as just friends. While it is certainly true that there are affairs that begin with impulsive one-night stands with a stranger, the most common ones that I see begin as just friends. In fact, if you find yourself thinking or saying, but we are just friends, you probably are already in trouble. Okay? And I'll tell you some things that get, especially some women in trouble is you're going out with your friend, okay, this male friend, and do you have to have your cleavage showing? Do you have to have your best outfit on? Do you have to look perfect when you're going out with your friend? Well, you don't know. I mean, we were going to this fabulous restaurant, this event, and your man is all right with that. Well, I really didn't tell him. Oh, you really didn't tell him. Well, there's a problem right there. Well, you know, he's going to get all jealous. Well, a healthy relationship, there is going to be a bit of jealousy, okay? Because I care about you. I love you. I want to know where you're going. And I know that there's people out there that they don't have your best interests in mind, okay? They don't care about our relationship. So I should be aware of where you're going, the caring gentleman says. But she says something like, you never let me do anything. And, this is my buddy and you should trust me. Don't you trust me? And of course, she's at the club and she's dancing and shaking with her buddy. And then she's got to get drinks. And then her buddy is putting his hands on her neck and on her shoulder and saying things like, I wish we would have made it. I mean, you're my girl. And, But of course, even if she says something to her husband about it, the point is that some folks just shouldn't be going out with the opposite sex, especially if your relationship isn't all that great anyway. Okay? If your relationship is on the rocks or it's troubled, it wouldn't make sense to be having online friends or offline friends because you done told your partner over and over again how you don't like him or don't like her and you don't want to be with him or you don't want to be with her. And so they're not going to be too accepting of these other friends. They're going to look at these friends as competition or home wreckers. They're going to look at them as side chicks. They're going to look at them as what. They're not going to be too happy that you're spending all this time and being so appreciative of these friends, and yet you don't even pay attention to when your own wife or fiance or your husband or your fiancé is looking quite lovely, handsome even, okay? So I'm talking to someone. Now, going back to the article, Gary Rosberg of America's Family Coaches states that there are at least 19 stages a person will pass through on the way to physically consummating an extramarital affair. There are at least 2 important notions that we can lift from Rosberg's statement. Number 1, at each and every one of the 19 steps, you have a clear choice between going further down or stopping the process, right? So when the Lord speaks to us in the Bible, because I know some folks don't like to read their Bible, but a lot of this stuff, worldly stuff that we hear, if you go back into your scriptures, you can see that some folks borrow some things out of the Bible, because the Lord warns us about temptation, right? And he also gives us an escape. And so if there are all these signs that are leading up to possibly consummating an extramarital affair, okay, it will make sense to yield, to stop, to not even go any further, because you know what's going to happen. Okay, a friend is going to turn into something more. And some folks need to confess sin and repent right now, because you know that you haven't separated or divorced from your husband or your wife, but you are conducting yourself as if you are single on and off the internet. And just because somebody decides that they don't want to wear their ring anymore does not mean that they are not, that they are not married. And it doesn't mean that they have a really bad relationship either, because you got some young, naive, gullible types who will say, well, he's not wearing his ring, so I guess it must not be all that. A lot of times men just don't want to wear their rings. It doesn't mean it that, he's got a terrible relationship. He just doesn't want to wear his ring. Well, I can't understand why, because some men are not into jewelry. Then there are other men who they have certain types of jobs where they're not about to mess up their wedding band, but you'll see them wear their wedding band at special events, on the weekend when they're not working. Okay. Then you have some women who they have all sorts of issues with their rings, and some folks don't want to be riding on buses or standing on a corner with the kind of carrots that they have. Okay. So just because somebody's not wearing a ring does not mean that they're not attached to someone. Okay. Point 2. Okay. An affair, by the way, is also pretty much adultery. Okay. We're not even going to try to make this sound like it's something special, something sweet and nice, because it's not. Okay. It's adultery, and adultery, that word is in the Bible. Okay. And the Lord does not like adultery. He's not in support of that sort of thing. So you could say, Lord, all you want about whatever it is that you or someone else is participating in, and try to spiritualize it a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's sin, period. Adultery breaks up marriages, it wrecks families, and crushes kids. Reading from the article. Now, the point that I want to make about these emotional affairs and folks saying things like, oh, we're just friends and all of this other stuff. Remember, that person is not being completely honest with you, or you may not be completely honest with someone, because here's the thing. There's some emotions that are involved when you have these so-called friends. Okay. There are. Now, some folks, they can handle their emotions and they're pretty responsible. So before somebody starts typing up some comment about, well, I got friends and I never did anything. Well, God bless you. Okay. You're not one of the weak ones, but this message is for one of the weak ones. If I know, and even Steve Harvey mentioned, that, he can't have female friends. He knows himself. Okay. You see, if you know that you got a long history of being quite jovial with women and men, you know that you tend to like to flirt a bit. You tend to always think about what it would be like to sleep with this one and that one. You know you shouldn't be having any female friends, male friends, because the argument is always going to come up with someone. It doesn't matter how cool, laid back that guy is or that girl is. Sooner or later, that argument is going to show up. Who is this person? Why are you talking to her all the time? Who is this dude? Okay. I mean, you supposed to be talking to me about personal issues. Why you feel like you got to tell him about everything that's going on? Okay. If we're going to be in this relationship, then, I would like to be the first person that you call. And here's the problem. A lot of times people who are having these emotional affairs before they even, end up in the bedroom, they are already talking to that person. Okay. About everything. Won't even make time to talk to their spouse or talk to, their committed partner about anything that's important, but always making time to get on the phone when no one's around to share information about whatever's going on with them. Oh, hey, how you doing? That's why I look at you as my best friend. I mean, because you understand me. Well, what about your wife? My wife, she don't get me. She don't feel me, Oh, I love you, man. I mean, you have been everything to me, right? And meanwhile, though, what about your husband? Oh, well, he got issues, you see? So the enemy will use situations like these, even though they seem harmless. But the point is to get you to eventually break out of that committed relationship, okay? Because God, he's in support of marriage. But the enemy is not in support of marriage. The enemy wants you to be divorced. The enemy wants you to be separated. The enemy wants you to have an emotional affair that eventually leads to a physical affair. So it starts with the harmless stuff. It's the being guarded about your cell phone. It's being guarded about what you're looking at over the internet. It's being guarded about who you're connecting with and making sure that your committed partner is not aware of these things that you're doing over the internet. These are real issues, okay? And for some of you all, if you were able to just come up out of some of this negative stuff that you're doing and see things for what they really are, you could possibly have a quality relationship. But the stubborn, the disrespectful, the arrogant, the, player, the one that's trying to get, her groove back, they are not going to take lightly to anything dealing with the relationship, or they're not going to take anything, or I should say they're not going to take anything seriously concerning the relationship, and they're going to take everything you say lightly because their mind is on someone else. Okay. I experienced this. Okay. I experienced it being the victim, and I've been the player. So I can talk about emotional affairs. Okay. Except back then I wasn't married to anyone. I just knew that if there was a guy that said the right things and looked a certain way on top of it, and the guy that I was with wasn't handling his business, then that was the guy that I was going to tell things to. That was the guy that I was going to hang out with. That was the guy that got me. Okay. And I wasn't investing too much time in the one that was under the impression that I was committed to, you see. And so I'm pulling some of y'all's coattails so that when you recognize that you are on a slippery slope to hell, because there's a lot of folks that end up checking out of here, and they check out of here not with Christ, but they check out of here with all of the adultery, all of the sin and everything else, and they go straight to hell. Okay. I know that that's not a popular message for some folks, but many people have died in car accidents with their lovers. Okay. And many folks have ended up, once again, going to hell. And you can look up hell, because some folks, well, for people to just say hell, that's not good enough. You got to research hell a bit, spend some time and learn some things about how God feels about sin. Okay. That's why we need a savior. You man, you woman are not a savior to anyone. That's why we got Jesus. But a lot of times these emotional affairs take place because somebody's trying to play savior to someone. Okay. I want to be there for you since that dude isn't going to be there for you. I want to be there for you because I know your woman's not treating you right, and I got this and I got that. Okay. So these people get into these little webs because they think they're saving someone. But if anything, they're doing nothing more than putting themselves in a place that God doesn't want them to be in. And it's going to feel like hell on earth even before you close your eyes, because after a while, people are going to get tired of playing secret lover. After a while, people are going to get tired of you telling them all these beautiful, wonderful, nice things you want to do for them. And they know you got someone too. They're going to tap that person on the shoulder and say, just want to let you know about your dude. Just want to let you know about your woman. Okay. I know. As you walk closer and closer with the Lord, He going to reveal truth. He going to shine a light. And like I told some of you all before, as you are trusting in the Lord and leaning on Him, you don't need to be that one that's parked outside somebody's house all hours of the night. You don't have to be that one that's going through everything. Okay. In a closet, under the rug, in a Trump, in an office space. You don't have to be that one, because God, when you get so close to him, he starts showing you things. He starts showing you pictures. He starts giving you visions, signs. He starts, just moving on your spirit and letting you know that you can't feel comfortable. You can't relax with this person, because this person got a lot of stuff that's going on with them, and it's ungodly and it's affecting the relationship. Remember, when all of us get married, we get married under the eyes of God. When we speak our vows, we are also speaking vows that the Lord is listening to. And so when we do shady things or disrespectful things or mean things or what have you, God is going to call us out on it. Now, we can either accept the fact that, yes, I messed up, Lord Jesus, please forgive me. I'm going to try to do what's right, or I'm going to do something better, or I'm going to, get rid of this so-called friend. Okay. Then God, he's going to put you where you need to be, because he says, okay, you're willing to escape temptation. You're willing to get up out of situations. All right. And then he can work with you. But a lot of times the reason why people remain stagnant in the faith, and I've said this before, is because they're unwilling to change. They're unwilling to do anything different. They're unwilling to shake off the ghetto, player, pimp, hustler type of mentality. They think that they're always going to be forever young, or they think that they are somehow something special or so unique or so spectacular, and God does some things to humble some folks, you see. I know that this is a cutting truth. I know some folks don't want to hear it. You see, if one is involved in a relationship and the relationship is not going so well, and then along comes this friend, and this friend is fine and unique and sexy and whatever else. Okay. You may have been good about not having sex with that person, but at some point you're going to end up having sex with that person, because there's a tension there. Well, that's just my friend. Yeah, but your body is saying something else. Okay. So once again, some folks just cannot be friends with the opposite sex. We see some of this when we look on the various social networking sites. Wow, you are sure flattering all these different females, married man. You are sure flattering all these different males, married woman, you see. Another thing too is that when folks is caught up in some foolishness, I noticed that we got some exaggerators that they don't want their wife or their husband to catch on to some things. So what they'll do is they'll talk a lot about their loving wife and their beautiful husband and all this other stuff. Okay. But meanwhile, if we were to take the snippets off the pages, okay, and some of the dialogue and put it out there on blast, we would find that that man or that woman isn't all into their spouse as they would like others to believe. Okay. Then you got some who they're not sugarcoating anything. I can't stand my wife. I can't stand my husband. I think he's no good, blah, blah, blah. So then they start bashing, their spouse. Okay. Well, if I'm in the cut and if I think that I can save a man or think that I, want to be with a woman or something, then, that's where the sweet talk comes in. Well, I'm sorry that your husband treats you in the way that he treats you. I'm sorry that your wife doesn't take care of you like you should be. I'm here to help you any way I can. Here, take my phone number. And when you feel frustrated and upset, you just give me a call, sweetheart. We go way back. I know you better than you know yourself. Woo! And for some of you all, you don't know how to wiggle out of that slippery, slick kind of talk. Nope. You're going to fall right into the snare, and the Lord is going to say, And that's why for some folks, they get their house taken away. They get their cars taken away. They end up getting their savings taken away. Oh, God sooner or later catches up with those fools. You see? And this is why I am warning some of you all that just because somebody looks very handsome or very, attractive on the internet, and just because somebody may have said a nice little thing to you, and you may have said something nice to them and you consider them to be just a friend, understand that when that person's face keeps playing in your mind, you done messed up. When you find yourself typing up a bunch of messages, right? wanting that person to communicate with you any way they possibly can, even if it's nothing more than good morning, you on a slippery slope. When you find yourself running to that person and talking to them about everything that's going on in your personal life as well as professional life, and meanwhile, you can't even get your husband or your wife to talk to you, come on, there's a problem. And when you find that you are envisioning this future with them, and meanwhile, you can't even envision a future with the wife or the husband you got. Oh my goodness. The best advice I can give you is to cut it off right now. It is not worth it. Okay. It is not worth it. Back in the day, like I said, I wasn't married at the time, but there was a lot of married folks that was after me. Okay. And one while there, I was starting to feel sick to my stomach because I said, Lord, I mean, is there anybody out there who's single and not married, or about to be divorced and all this other stuff? And I came across an individual who he didn't mind showing his family picture. And he told me quite boldly that he was married, you see, and it was one of those things where I had to be, mind you, he was like 20 some years older than me. I had to be the one to tell this man, no, I'm sorry. I can't, go out on another date with you. Well, we're just friends, he said. And I could see the look in his eyes. He didn't want just a friend. He wanted a lover that was going to comfort him while he was away from his family. And he thought I was dumb enough to fall for it. Okay. Some of you all, you know that there are some married men that are after you. You need to have some courage. Go to the Lord, speak to him, tell him what your concerns are, and then allow the Lord to speak to you, but then put that man on notice. Okay. Let that man know, excuse me, but you're already showing me who you are. The fact of the matter is you cannot be committed to your wife because you're too busy looking at me. You're too busy wanting to be with me. Okay. Look, this isn't going to work. And then who's to say that later on down the line, I don't end up cheating on you. You see, you're going to have to speak truth to these folks. If you are that one that's caught up in a situation like that, where it's married men coming at you. Okay. God didn't put you on this planet to be some, dare we say it, whore to some married men, some mistress to some married men. God gave you love. He gave you peace. He gave you joy. He gives you direction for your life. He gives you so much, but that's if you seek him. But if you are seeking after unavailable folks and they have this covenant with the Lord, you're going to fall under that curse right along with the one who you were cheating with. Okay. This is a serious, serious issue. And I'm trying to keep some people from going down a long road of difficulty and upset and having all sorts of health ailments and everything else behind worry, stress, and being mixed up with some folks who just want to call you a friend. And the sad part about it is that if a person is showing that kind of interest in you, and all you can get is a friend label, that shows you that they really don't love or care for you as much as they claim anyway when they're playing the secret game. Okay. Some of you all know what I'm talking about. Secret lovers, secret friends and all that. A man that really wants to be with a woman and a woman who really wants to be with a man, there is no secret anything. There is no be quiet, don't tell. They're straight up. This is my woman. This is my man. This is my husband. This is my wife. People who really respect the vows of their relationship, people who really are into their partners, they do not play these little games. But a man or a woman who's caught up in an emotional affair, they're playing a whole lot of games. They're even picking fights. I had a relative who told me, he said he specifically would pick fights with his common law wife just so that he could get out the house so that he could have sex with his little friends. Okay? And some of you all, you probably scratching your head saying, that's why every time I turn around, we got some kind of falling out. Yeah, because if they're not getting out and physically doing it with someone, they're getting into some type of argument so that they can get on a phone and talk to someone away from you. Okay. Other ones will get their boy or their sister, or I had one get his sister to contact me because he knew that he couldn't use his phone to contact me. And then the plan was that I was supposed to call him at work. I'm like, first up, there's a problem right here. You got your sister calling me. And then the sister revealed that he had a wife, but she didn't like his wife. I said this in a past audio some years back. Okay, so you don't like the wife, but you're encouraging him basically to cheat on his wife. You see, we got some treacherous, downright shady types of folks. So you don't want to continue to be in that sort of stuff, or you may not even be in that sort of stuff, but the enemy is luring you in with the just friends stuff. Okay. While you're thinking, this is more than just a friend, but I'll never tell. Okay. So remember, you don't need to be telling these so-called friends everything that's going on with you. Your first point of contact should always be your wife or your husband, not your sister, not your brother, not your cousin, not this person on the job that you met, or some person you used to go to school with, or some new stranger in your life. Your first point of contact, especially with personal issues, should be with that partner. And if you don't have a quality relationship with your partner, but you still very much love that person, then it would make sense to get some counseling. Stop complaining. Stop walking around having an attitude and get some counseling. And it don't have to be couple counseling. It could be counseling for you. Because a lot of times we have our own personal issues that we're grappling with, and bringing another person in our lives, whether they're a friend or something else, is not going to give you the peace. Because even if